The morning in Lagos broke with a sky that looked as if someone had spilled gold paint across the clouds. Jiwoo's driver, a cheerful man named Emeka, wove through the traffic with the kind of skill that suggested traffic was less an obstacle and more an art form. "First time in Nigeria, sir?" Emeka asked, glancing in the rearview mirror. "Yes," Jiwoo replied, crisp, though his eyes lingered on the city outside the window. Streets teeming with Danfo buses, women balancing baskets of fruit on their heads, billboards advertising telecom companies in bright colors. It was disorderly compared to Seoul, yet vibrant, alive. "You'll enjoy it," Emeka said. "But Lagos traffic will test your patience more than any business meeting." Jiwoo almost smiled. Almost. The Jacobs Holdings headquarters rose sleek and modern on Victoria Island, glass walls catching the morning sun. Inside, polished marble floors reflected the movements of executives. Jiwoo stepped into the boardroom, his suit tailored to perfection, his expression composed, carrying the stillness of a man who had spent years controlling everything within reach. The boardroom was full. Men and women in crisp suits, laptops open, notepads ready. At the head of the table sat Charles Jacobs, CEO, broad-shouldered in his early 60s, with silver hair and eyes that measured profit in seconds. Beside him stood Eliana Jacobs. She was nothing like what Jiwoo had prepared for. She wore a navy suit, fitted but professional, her dark curls pulled into a low bun. Her eyes, bright, focused, met his across the room with a steadiness that made him forget to breathe for a fraction of a second. When she spoke, her voice was clear, commanding, yet warm enough to hold the room. "Welcome, Director Han. We've been looking forward to this meeting." Jiwoo inclined his head. "Thank you for receiving me." The introductions blurred around him. What cut through the noise was her. The way she gestured with precision, the confidence with which she explained Jacobs Holdings' projections for the Lekki Port expansion. She wasn't just the daughter of the CEO. She was the strategist, the architect behind the numbers. As she presented, Jiwoo found himself studying details he normally ignored. The way her hands moved, the rhythm of her speech, the fire beneath her professionalism. For the first time in years, his mind wasn't on contracts, but on a person. When the presentation ended, Charles Jacobs leaned back. "So, Director Han, what does Han Group propose?" Jiwoo opened his folder, but his voice faltered for the briefest second. He caught Eliana's eyes again. Something unspoken passed between them. Curiosity, recognition, perhaps the beginning of something neither could name. "We propose a 50-50 joint venture," Jiwoo said finally, steadying himself. "Shared investment, shared control. Infrastructure is a bridge. Both sides must walk across." A murmur ran through the board members. Unexpected, diplomatic. Charles Jacobs nodded slowly. "A bold offer. We'll consider." Later, during the coffee break, Jiwoo found himself standing near the glass wall overlooking the Atlantic. The city stretched out, the sea restless beyond it. "You surprised them," a voice said beside him. He turned. Eliana stood there, a cup of tea in her hand, her eyes reflecting the sea's light. "How so?" he asked. "You offered equality. Most foreign investors don't." Jiwoo's lips curved slightly. "Equality is efficient. Control breeds resistance." She laughed softly. "That's a very Korean answer." He tilted his head. "And what is the Nigerian answer?" "That sometimes control is necessary," she said. "But respect, that's the real bridge." For the first time, Jiwoo allowed himself a smile, small but genuine. "You speak like someone who builds more than companies." She raised a brow. "And you speak like someone who never stops working." He had no answer. She had already seen through him. That evening, Charles Jacobs hosted a dinner at the Eco Hotel Sky restaurant. The city glittered below, the Atlantic dark and vast beyond. Jiwoo sat beside Eliana, the hum of conversation wrapping around them like background music. "Have you tried jollof rice?" she asked, placing a plate in front of him. The rice was bright orange, spiced, fragrant. "No." "Then today you begin your real Lagos experience." He tasted it. Heat bloomed on his tongue, sharp and rich. He coughed once, surprising himself. She laughed, the sound light, unguarded. "Too spicy?" "No," he said, though his face warmed. Just different. Different isn't always bad, she said quietly, watching him. The words lingered longer than the spice. Days stretched into a rhythm. Meetings by day, dinners by night. Eliana guided him through Lagos, not just the polished conference rooms, but the soul of the city. The markets of Balagan, where fabrics flamed in every color. The Lekki Ikoyi Bridge at night, lit like a jeweled ribbon. At each turn, Jiwoo felt the walls inside him shift. He found himself speaking more, even laughing at her jokes. He told her things he had never told anyone, about the accident, the way he had learned to bury feeling under work. Eliana listened, not with pity, but with a steadiness that gave his words weight. "You live like a man afraid of losing control," she said one evening. "I have to," he admitted. "Maybe," she said softly. "But sometimes control is just another kind of prison." Something in him cracked. He didn't say it aloud, but he thought, she is right. And she is dangerous. Dangerous because she made him feel alive. The deal with Jacobs Holdings moved forward, contracts drafted, terms balanced. But something deeper had been signed already, between him and Eliana, wordless but undeniable. On his last night in Lagos, standing on the balcony of the hotel, Jiwoo looked at the city one more time. Eliana stood beside him, the warm night air curling around them. "You leave tomorrow," she said. "Yes. And then what?" "Back to your world of suits and numbers." He turned to her, his voice low, urgent. "If I return without you, I return incomplete." She blinked, startled. "You hardly know me." "I know enough," he said, his eyes burning with a conviction even he hadn't expected. "Enough to know I don't want this to end." Silence stretched, filled with the hum of the city below. Then she reached for his hand. "Then don't let it." That night marked the beginning of something irreversible. Jiwoo had come to Lagos for business. He would leave with something his grandfather had prayed for but never expected: love. And soon, the Han dynasty would be changed forever. Lagos taught Han Jiwoo that a city could breathe. In Seoul, the towers exhaled money and inhaled time. In Lagos, the wind from the Atlantic rode motorcycles and danfos, sidled past hawkers with trays of plantain chips, and slipped into boardrooms with the smell of rain and engine oil. It was impossible to pretend work was the only rhythm here. The city drummed. On Saturday, Eliana texted, "No suits today. Dress light. Hydrate. Bring curiosity." He arrived in a pale linen shirt, sleeves rolled neatly, the sun catching at the edges of his hair. Emeka, already half in love with the idea of turning the quiet Korean into a Lagosian, laughed when he saw him. "Oga Jiwoo, you will survive," Emeka said, then stage whispered to Eliana. "Madam, reduce the assignment small. He's delicate." "I am not delicate," Jiwoo protested. "We'll see," Eliana teased, and they plunged into Balagan Market. If the boardroom was a symphony, Balagan was a carnival. Bolts of Ankara fabric blazed like flags in impossible colors. Tailors measured with bright tape. Voices bargained in Yoruba, Igbo, Pidgin, English. Music without instruments. A woman wrapped a geli in seconds, transforming another woman into royalty. Fire softened yams in aluminum pans. Peppers argued with the air. "Choose a fabric," Eliana said. "Let Lagos put something permanent on you." He ran a hand over a cloth of navy and clean white geometry. "This one." "Classic," she nodded approvingly. "We'll make you an Agbada. Minimalist. You'll terrorize boardrooms with it." "I thought we already terrorized them," he said, almost smiling. 50-50. She bumped his shoulder, pleased. They wove, and she pointed, history tucked into alleyways, stories in the names of shop fronts. She taught him greetings. "Ikazen for good afternoon, Bawo and I. For how are you?" He repeated them, careful, precise, the way he had learned English as a boy. Structure first, melody later. When he mispronounced, she corrected gently. When he resisted play, she made him laugh. It startled him every time that he could. At Terra Culture, they shared suya and palm wine, watching a rehearsal for a play slip past open doors. Heat held the afternoon like a secret. He told her about Pyeongchangdong winters sharp enough to snap words clean in two, about cram school nights, about a little boy in a hospital corridor holding his brother's hand and learning the difference between yesterday and forever. You carry it like it's still happening, she said softly. It is, he said. Just slower. Most days I outrun it. Some days it gains. She didn't clutch at him or try to fix it. She took his hand. When it gains, you don't have to outrun it alone. The hand-holding was not dramatic. Two professionals on a patio table with a city in motion around them. But a tremor moved through him all the same. He squeezed back, not sure until that moment that his fingers remembered how. Evenings became a ritual. Lekki Ikoyi Bridge at night. Lighted cables like harp strings plucked by wind. Then long drives in traffic that made patience a suspicion rather than a virtue. He discovered Puff Puff and tried to pretend it did not delight him. He discovered that you could measure a person by the way they navigated gridlock. Eliana waved, explained, laughed, apologized, sang along to a radio DJ who seemed to be narrating the city in jokes. One evening at Freedom Park, children ran across old colonial bricks while a trumpet wrote a new song over an older silence. Eliana watched them, something fierce and tender in her eyes. My mother brought me here after school sometimes, she said, before the company swallowed our lives whole. Do you regret it? He asked. The company swallowing? Some days. Not today. She glanced at him, the corner of her mouth hitching. Today the company is being useful. He let himself look at her fully, beyond the architecture of competence she used to manage rooms. He cataloged things a spreadsheet wouldn't hold. The small birthmark near her jawline, the way she pinched her lower lip when she was solving a problem, the laugh that broke more easily when she forgot to be the daughter of a CEO. Teach me yours, she said later, as the sky turned the color of heat cooling. Teach me Korea. He brought her to the rooftop of Eco Hotel, where the world was briefly wider. He showed photos on his phone, Gwangwamun, Bukshinhanek Village, the tiled roofs that looked like scales, the Cheonggyecheon stream slicing through a neat city like a bright thread. He described first snow, the quiet when it fell, how Seoul could be tender if you caught it off guard. And your house? She asked. The Han estate. He tapped the screen to a photo of the winter garden, frozen roses waiting for spring. It is beautiful and full of ghosts. She considered. Then when we go, we bring heat. Lagos heat. It can bully ghosts into taking a holiday. When? Not if. The word lodged like a warm stone in his chest. When we go. They were not children. They did not pretend distance, inheritance, and expectation were small. They touched those topics like glass, careful and honest. She told him about Charles Jacobs, loving, exacting, a man who had built something from salt and grit. He will smile, she warned gently, but he will test you with the smile on. Good, he said. I like honest tests. That's what people say before they meet my father. On Sunday, he followed her to her parents' house in Ikoyi, a modern villa that somehow smelled like childhood anyway. The walls wore art collected over years. The dining table dared you to leave hungry and failed. He met Mrs. Jacobs, whose embrace was hospitality and interrogation in the same motion, and Charles himself, eyes the same bright steel as his daughter's. The two men shook hands. The air thickened. I hear you offered equality, Charles said. I offered efficiency, Jiwoo replied. Equality is the most efficient arrangement built to last. Charles's smile sharpened. And what is your plan for my daughter's heart, Mr. Han? 50-50. Unanimous vote, Jiwoo said before his fear could consult his mouth. Hers. Mrs. Jacobs laughed, delighted. Charles's smile eased a fraction. After dinner, Charles showed him a framed newspaper from 25 years ago. Local startup wins first port contract. A younger Charles grinned from the photograph, elbows braced on the future. I know what it is to love something you build, Charles said, not taking his eyes off the glass. Don't ask my daughter to love from the margins. I won't, Jiwoo said. He meant the company, the marriage, the life. He meant it all. When they left, Eliana took his arm. You passed, she whispered. This was an exam? Everything is an exam to my father, she said. Even joy. Then I will study. Good, she said, tilting up to kiss his cheek. A quick, confident press that sent the Atlantic roaring somewhere behind his ribs. There will be a practical soon. Emeka honked from the driveway. Oga and Madam. Love birds. Time to drop Oga home before curfew. I have no curfew, Jiwoo said, baffled. You do now, Eliana teased. It keeps you interesting. They were ridiculous and sincere, stern and giddy. On Monday, they re-entered the boardroom as professionals, and the rhythm resumed. Terms, schedules, cost-sharing, dispute resolution mechanisms. On Tuesday, they were two people squinting into sun on Alash Beach, the skyline low and the water alive, negotiating sunscreen and secrets. Under an umbrella, bare feet pressed into sand, he told her the sentence his grandfather had knitted into his bones. Be worthy. He didn't realize he was shaking until she set her palm over his chest. Worthy isn't something you buy with pain, she said. It's what you become when you choose people over fear. He looked at her hand on him. He looked at the line the sea drew and redrew as if practice could perfect a boundary. Then I choose you. The air between them stilled. She searched his face for performance and found none. I am not a prize, she said, voice level. I know, he said. You are the exam. Her laugh broke, startled and soft. Careful. I grade hard. Then teach me until I pass, he replied, and kissed her, slow, certain, not a taking but a learning. She kissed him back with the relief of a person who had suspected, long ago, that somewhere in the world there was a language only two people would ever speak fluently. The city kept breathing. They let it. When the week closed, the joint venture was at signature draft, and the rumor lattices of Victoria Island humored themselves with a new topic. The Korean with the iron suit who softened around a particular woman. In his hotel room that night, Jiwoo stood with his suitcase open and his future scattered. The flight back to Seoul blinked at him from his phone like an accusation. He texted Eliana, pack a bag. Or pack a life. Her reply took 3 minutes and changed everything, both. Are we insane? Eliana asked, sitting on the edge of the bed and staring at the suitcase that suddenly looked like a dare. The Lagos morning was soft and bright. The air conditioning tried and failed to impersonate Harmattan. Statistically, Jiwoo said, tying his tie without looking away from her. Yes. Culturally, also yes. Personally, he crossed the room, stopped in front of her, and took her face in his hands like something both rare and inevitable. No. Her phone buzzed. Charles Jacobs. She let it ring twice, then answered. Dad, I'm hearing rumors, Charles said, skipping courtesy. About you and Mr. Han. Coming to the office. Yes, Eliana said. But first, Dad, I need you to listen. Silence clicked. I'm listening. She told him, not with romance but with the discipline he respected. The outline of a decision built on character, not convenience, on clarity, not drama. She loved this man. He loved her. They intended to marry quickly, cleanly, with both families respected and the joint venture insulated from gossip. You expect me to approve a cross-continental marriage announced like a corporate memo? Charles said, but there was no heat, only a father's attempt at leverage. I expect you to meet him again, she said. As my father, not my CEO. Another pause longer. Bring him to the house at noon. She exhaled when the call ended. Phase 2, she said, forcing brightness. Practical exam, Jiwoo murmured. They arrived to find Mrs. Jacobs already setting out tea, as if emotional negotiations burned calories. Charles remained standing, hands in pockets, posture claiming the room. He looked at the two of them as if measuring a bridge's load-bearing capacity. You wish to marry, he said. Yes, they said together. Why now, he asked. Why not let time prove what you think you already know? Because delay is not the same as wisdom, Jiwoo said. And because my grandfather is 80 and has made our future contingent on what is, in truth, already wise, building a family. I will not lie to him or bargain for an heir. I want a marriage. To your daughter. Not as a strategy. As a life. Charles scanned his face for the strings, the calculations. What do you do when my daughter disagrees with you in public? In front of directors. In front of press. I will listen to her in public and argue with her in private, Jiwoo said. And when she is right, I will say so out loud. What about Seoul? Charles asked Eliana. What about your mother's Tuesdays and your choir and your freedom to walk into this kitchen without an invitation? I bring them with me, Eliana said, not flinching. Not physically, maybe, but the shape of them. I am not shrinking, Dad. I'm moving a country and expanding. Mrs. Jacobs smiled into her teacup. Charles almost did. And the company? He asked. Jacobs Holdings isn't a souvenir you display. I'm not leaving, Eliana said. We have video calls, we have planes, we have a board. The JV means I'll spend time in Seoul anyway. This is 21st century marriage, Dad. Not a trade. Charles turned to Ji-woo. And when your family disrespects mine, when a director makes a joke about Nigerians at a gala and expects you to grin, I will not grin, Ji-woo said lightly with steel underneath. I will remove his access to microphones. Silence stretched. The old newspaper on the wall was watching. At last Charles blew out a breath. You remind me of me when I stopped asking permission, he said to Eliana. To Ji-woo. And you remind me of the men who didn't scare easily and therefore succeeded. He moved slowly, as if testing the bridge as he walked across it. Then he extended his hand. Very well. We will do this properly. Church or courthouse? Both, Eliana said, eyes bright. Both, Ji-woo echoed, relief dangerously close to joy. Then I have conditions, Charles added, because of course he did. 1. A formal Yoruba blessing for my mother, in our compound before any papers. 2. A Korean ceremony later, so I see how your people say yes with their hands. 3. Prenup, fair and simple. Wealth should not become a weapon. 4. The JV must stand on its own feet. No one will say you married for ports. Agreed, Ji-woo said, already composing emails in his mind, feeling absurdly grateful to have something logistical to hold while his heart sprinted. Good, Charles said. Then go. Before I change my mind. Mrs. Jacobs hugged them both and added a fifth condition with a wink. Bring grandchildren. Eventually. Not as a KPI. They laughed, and the room unauded. Back at Jacobs Holdings, whispered speculation shot through corridors faster than memos. Vera, Eliana's longtime deputy, closed the conference room door and leaned against it. You are chaos, she accused fondly. Eliana Jacobs, Vera intoned, who scheduled love between Q2 projections and port tender meetings. Blame him, Eliana said, tipping her chin toward Ji-woo. Vera's eyes softened as she scanned him. You're serious? Yes, he said, steady. And I am not a temporary. Good. She stuck out her hand, executive to executive. Welcome to the part where we protect Eliana from herself, and you from Seoul. He shook, grateful for allies he didn't know he would need. They signed the heads of terms for the JV that afternoon, pens moving in practiced choreography. When they finished, Eliana capped hers and didn't put it down. Come with me, she said. She led him to a quiet room with a low couch. Afternoon sun puddled on the carpet. No ceremony, no audience. She took his hands. I don't need flowers, she said. I don't need soul. I need the thing we keep building anyway when we're not even trying. He understood. Yes. They walked to the Ikoyi registry the next morning with a tiny convoy of relatives and colleagues who pretended not to cry. Papers were signed, simple vows said. He looked at her while he spoke and forgot there were other people in the world who had ever said I do. Her name became a home he could travel to without a plane. Outside, Emeka sprayed them lightly with bottled water like a budget fountain. For long life, he announced. For data bundles, Vera corrected, waving her phone as she snapped photos. We need to upload this love. Eliana laughed into Ji-woo's shoulder. He laughed into her hair. A city swirled, indifferent and celebratory in equal measure. Somewhere in Seoul, a grandfather checked a clock and did not yet know that time had just answered him. That evening, on the hotel balcony with Lagos warm and low, Ji-woo called Han Guk-hyun. Grandfather, he said. Yes, came the measured reply, the single syllable that made boardrooms polite. I have something to tell you, Ji-woo said, and the wind lifted and the future leaned in. The courtyard in Ikoyi smelled of hibiscus and wood smoke. Aunties in Gelly the color of ripe mango fanned themselves as drummers stitched a heartbeat into the afternoon. In the center, a low table held cola nuts, palm wine, alligator pepper. the grammar of blessing laid out like punctuation marks. Eliana wore an Osso Oak wrapper in deep indigo and gold. Jiwoo stood beside her in a clean white agbada the tailor had finished at miraculous speed. He'd protested the embroidery, kept it minimal. Still, the fabric carried Lagos in its quiet swagger. Beside them, Charles and Mrs. Jacobs stood as if they were both giving away and gathering. An elder, Eliana's grandmother, tiny and formidable, took Jiwoo's hands and turned them palm up. "Do you know what it means to carry?" she asked, voice clear. "Yes, Mama," he said. She smiled, hearing the accent and blessing it anyway. "You will carry with both hands. Not just your name, but hers. Not just your company, but her joy. If you drop any of it, we will call you from across oceans." Laughter rippled. She sliced kola nut into neat, shining segments. "Break bitterness together. Swallow sweetness together. Don't let pride sit between you at the table." She passed them the pieces. They tasted sharp and clean, like vows should. The drummers shifted rhythm. Eliana knelt to greet her elders. Jiwoo followed, bowing in the practiced angle of his childhood. Two traditions mirrored, found the same humility. Palm wine traveled in a calabash. When it reached Charles, he lifted it, considering the young man who now belonged to his daughter and to himself in new ways. "Drink," Charles said, and when Jiwoo did, the courtyard exhaled. Lagos had accepted a Korean son with the oldest language a family knows, blessing. They registered the marriage the next morning. Days later, Iko Cathedral lit up with a simple church ceremony. Choir voices bending toward the high ceiling like prayers opening themselves. Vera read a verse with CFO clarity. Emeka filmed from the last pew, muffling his own commentary with a hand over his mouth. Mrs. Jacobs dabbed her eyes and then accused her mascara of betrayal. Charles shook Jiwoo's hand twice, the second time with something almost like tenderness. "Your turn," Eliana said on the flight to Seoul, lacing her fingers through his. "Show me how your people say yes." He was nervous in a way mergers had never made him. Somewhere over the Sahara, he wrote to Han Guk-hyun, "I married Eliana. We seek your blessing. We will honor both homes." The reply came hours later, brief, imperial. "Come home. Bring her to me first." Seoul in winter sharpened everything. The air stung, clean and brisk, like the city had done its homework. Eliana pressed her face to the car window, watching neon noodle signs hum over narrow streets. Couples in padded jackets sharing hadiak and laughter. It was so unlike Lagos, ordered restrained, its warmth hidden like an in-joke. The Han ancestral estate rose out of pines like a statement no one dared debate. Pyeongchangdong was both museum and fortress. Stone walls, lacquered doors, a winter garden asleep under gauze. They stopped before the main house. Jiwoo took Eliana's hands, sudden boyishness stealing into his composure. "He will look like the mountain looks," he warned low. "And he will be kinder than that." She squeezed. "I bring Lagos heat," she said. "We will not be cold." The doors slid open. Han Guk-hyun waited in the foyer in a dark hanbok, posture unbent by 8 decades. His eyes, those hard, exacting instruments, moved from Jiwoo to Eliana and back, taking the measure of a decision already made without him, and yet somehow including him entirely. She bowed, awkward at first, then steady. "Grandfather," she said carefully in Korean. "Thank you for receiving me." A muscle flickered at the corner of his jaw. Surprise is subtle in men who dislike giving ground. He answered in English, his accent sparse but exact. "Welcome, Eliana Jacobs. You have married my grandson without asking me." "Yes," she said. "I did not want to make your love a condition of our marriage. I wanted to ask for it after we had already promised each other ours." Silence. Snow ticked against glass. Then the old man nodded once, an emperor granting an argument he enjoyed hearing. "Good. Conditional love is cheap." He stepped closer, studying her face for fracture lines and finding none. "Hold out your hands." She did. He laid his palms over hers, skin like parchment stretched over will. "I bless what you have started," he said, voice low enough to pin the air. "I bless what you will protect. You will have enemies. People who smile like friends. The Han name attracts both. Take what is useful, refuse what is rotten. And you," he shifted his gaze to Jiwoo. You called me to tell me you were alive. Keep calling. He didn't smile, but his eyes warmed. Eliana blinked too fast to stop the sheen. Jiwoo bowed deeper than the ritual required. The paybeak was quiet and ceremonial. Hanbok like moving flowers, dates and chestnuts tossed into a folded skirt to augur children. Eliana laughed when the chestnuts bounced, then scooped them triumphant. Twins, one aunt murmured delighted, and another hushed her, beaming. Diyun stood at the edge of the room like punctuation, unobtrusive as good grammar. Media discovered them before dessert. That night, the family's carefully guarded privacy blew open. News anchors smiled with sharp teeth. Reserved Han heir secretly marries daughter of Nigerian tycoon. International merger becomes international marriage. Is love the newest strategic asset? By morning, paparazzi nested at the estate gates like persistent crows. Jiwoo pulled Eliana behind him as they stepped out for the car. Flashes popped. Eliana, here. Do you speak Korean? Did you sign a prenup? Are you pregnant? Was this for the inheritance? A photographer stumbled on the icy path. Eliana caught his elbow before he went down. The photo, a black woman in a royal blue coat steadying a man who had just shouted at her, ricocheted across the internet and made enemies look awkward and allies louder. At Han Group's headquarters, the board pretended to discuss dividends while calculating gossip. Jiwoo called the meeting to order with a voice that had forgotten what tremble meant. Personal life is not agenda item 1, he said. The West Africa JV is. He clicked to the first slide. Eliana sat beside him, translating corporate cadence into new possibility. Within 10 minutes, half the room forgot to be scandalized. They hosted a small Jianri, formal greeting, for close partners only. Eliana wore pale jade. Han Gukyeon told old stories about Seoul's harbor smelling like fish and ambition in the 1960s. When someone asked how they would raise future children between continents, Eliana answered before anyone could weaponize the question. Between strengths, not between fears. The only person not charmed was Han Min-jae. He arrived late to the family dinner, smelled of nightclub and expensive forgiveness. He kissed Eliana's cheek, too near the mouth, and watched Jiwoo's jaw tighten with a private smile. Hyung, he drawled. You move fast. I'm impressed. Be sincere or be silent, Han Gukyeon said without looking at him. They ate in brittle civility. After dessert, the chairman asked Min-jae to stay. Diyun closed the doors. The room cooled. I have been patient, the old man said. Patience without consequence becomes permission. He slid a folder across the table. Min-jae didn't touch it. Grandfather, open it. Inside, transcripts, photographs, a notarized copy of the marriage arrangement Attorney Park had drafted. A bank transfer to Uni for a sum that could buy silence in bulk. A hidden camera still from a Cheongdam-dong lounge where Min-jae bragged casually about renting the future. He tried to smile. This is a misunderstanding. Correction, Diyun said mildly. A pattern. Color crawled up Min-jae's neck. He reached for charm and found it had the wrong tools for this lock. You made the rules impossible, he said to the chairman, the boy bleeding through the man. You dangled everything, and then told us to deserve it with feelings. I told you to be decent, Han Gukyeon replied. You bought decency on installment. He signed a single sheet and slid it to Diyun. Effective immediately, Han Min-jae is relieved of all responsibilities at the foundation. He will report to audit and compliance for retraining. He will repay everyone improperly used. He will apologize to the woman he tried to hire. And he will work in daylight. I'm your blood, Min-jae said, something raw tearing through the polish. That is why I will not throw you out, the old man said. Do not mistake mercy for weakness. The door opened. Eliana stood at the threshold, not poised to eavesdrop so much as to witness. Her eyes touched Min-jae with a strange mixture of pity and disdain. She bowed and left them to their family fire. That night, in their apartment overlooking Gwangwamun, Jiwoo confessed a fear he hadn't named. I thought he might disown him, he said, looking out at the square. Elijah and David were brothers, Eliana said, thinking of stories from Sunday school. One made a kingdom. One set fires. Father loved both. The kingdom survived because love doesn't need to turn into collapse to be true. I married a strategist, he murmured. You married a woman who wants your family not to eat itself. He pulled her close, and for a long moment they just stood. Soul cold on the glass, Lagos warmth in the room, a life threading itself tighter. The prediction came back to them months later like a wink from an old aunt. Twins. The obstetrician pointed at the grainy ultrasound screen in Seoul National University Hospital. The same building where a lifetime ago 2 little boys had learned what absence was. 2 heartbeats, she said, and Eliana laughed and cried at once, one hand fisting in Jiwoo's sleeve. His eyes shone in a way boardrooms had never managed to coax. They told Han Guk-hyun by arriving at breakfast with a small wooden box. Inside, 2 tiny pairs of socks, one embroidered with a crane, the other with a jacaranda blossom. The old man stared. For a second, time failed to record anything. Then his hands, those command instruments, shook. Twins, he whispered. The house remembers. He called for porridge and cut fruit, and then forgot to eat any of it. You will both work less, he decreed. I will hire 3 nannies and a general. The general will manage you. Halabiaji, Jiwoo said, trying not to smile. We will manage. No, the old man said. You will think you are managing. That is not the same. The pregnancy turned the estate into a reforming nation. Aunt Hygiene arrived with soups. Mrs. Jacobs flew in with spices and lullabies. Charles pretended to come for board meetings and spent entire afternoons assembling a high-tech crib with the bewilderment of a man who had conquered ports but not screws. Cameras shivered beyond the gate, but were kept at a humane distance by Diyun, who had discovered that poor photo angles discouraged intrusion better than threats. The tabloids tried to bait scandal. Will Han heir abandon Korean tradition for Nigerian wife? But found themselves outmaneuvered by a couple who appeared at charity events smiling and left early to eat street tteokbokki in wool coats. When contractions began on a clear, brittle morning, Jiwoo drove too fast and apologized between every traffic light. Eliana called him ridiculous and gripped his hand until both their fingers went numb. I thought you liked control, she hissed when a particularly ambitious contraction knifed through her. I am learning to like surrender, he said, white-knuckled. Hours later, in a room warmed beyond hospital standard, 2 boys arrived, red, wailing, outraged at gravity. The sound undid Han Guk-hyun when they brought him in, the old man's face collapsing and rebuilding itself in the space of a breath. He held the first child like a ceremonial object, then like a grandson. Han Seo-jun, he named softly, tasting the syllables, auspicious, orderly. He held the second and smiled wider. Han Dae-hyun, great and worthy. He raised his eyes to Eliana. You have multiplied our house. She was exhausted, luminous, hair wild and glorious. We have, she corrected. She nodded at Jiwoo, whose entire being looked newly written. We did. A photographer from the family foundation took 1 picture. No more, of 4 hands touching 2 small foreheads. It became the image that replaced rumor. The dynasty as a verb, not a weapon. The reading of the inheritance took place a month later in the study that had witnessed too much. Diyun positioned a silver recorder on the desk, more for ritual than necessity. Han Guk-hyun sat very straight, his hanbok the color of dignity. He cleared his throat. I will not read the entire document. You are too young to die of boredom. I will read the hinge. He unfolded a page, glanced at Min-jae, who stood at the back with a bruise of humility deepening into something like growth. The controlling shares of Han Group Holdings, the old man read, pass upon my death to Han Jiwoo, to be held in trust jointly for Han Seo-jun and Han Dae-hyun until their 30th year, with a stewardship clause requiring adherence to ethical and philanthropic benchmarks. He paused, eyes finding Eliana. The foundation assets will be doubled over 10 years and jointly governed by the heirs of Han and Jacobs, because the future we own is not the only one we must build. He folded the page, let silence hold the moment. Min-jae swallowed. And me? You are my grandson, the chairman said. You will always be. That does not require a ledger entry. He slid a different folder across the desk. You will have a company of your own, small, honest, under audit. Build it into something that would make your father want to come back and see it. 1,000 things rose in Minjae's throat. He bit most of them back. "Thank you," he said, and meant it more than anyone expected. The room softened. The way winter does when it remembers spring is not an invention. Later, when the house had quieted and the twins had screamed themselves into sleep, Jiwoo found Han Gukhyun alone in the winter garden. Snow pressed its cool face against the glass. The old man stood with his hands clasped behind him, the shape of him thinner and larger at once. "You did not chase it," he said without turning. "It came." "I chased her," Jiwoo said. The rest followed. The old man chuckled, low and surprised. "Good. I raised a hunter after all." They stood in the hum of machines, keeping roses asleep. Finally, Han Gukhyun said, almost to himself, "I was afraid the dynasty would end with me. I didn't know how tired I was." He looked at Jiwoo then, the softness he rationed finally spending itself. "Now I can rest a little." "Don't rest too much," Jiwoo said, smiling. "They will need you to teach them how to terrify boardrooms with one syllable." "I will teach them to terrify gently," the old man said. "Your wife has infected me with her optimism." They went back inside, where Eliana slept with a son on each arm. A queen of a country that had never been on any map, and yet ruled everything that mattered. Jiwoo stood in the doorway and thought of Lagos at dusk, Seoul in snow. A car crash that had broken 2 boys and a blessing that had made a family. In the corner, Dune updated a file, Han Legacy secured. He closed it and unusually allowed himself a smile. Outside, the city breathed, engines and winter and neon and prayers. Inside, a dynasty exhaled and became human. Thank you for watching. Please kindly subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon so you'd get notified when we drop another video. Give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to share to your family and friends. Tells us where you're watching from in the comments, and also share your thoughts about this story. And we will see you in our next one.